We are Pro Cannabis Media.
All right, welcome back to Cannabis Chat Live on the Pro Cannabis Media channel and social media networks out there. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. I'm joined by David Rabinovitz, and this is the Green Rush. This is the business of cannabis. And on this particular day, we are going to talk about the social equity initiative in the industry. We've got a couple of guests already in the room with us. Marie Montmarquet is with us. She is the co-founder of MD Numbers in California. And he's known in New York as a former communications director of NORML, but he's now coming to us from Orlando, Florida, and he is St. Mychael. So St. Mychael and Marie, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, indeed.
And David, I'm going to let you take it from here.
So, listen, why don't we start with, I'm going to give each one of you a moment or two, just give an introduction, tell people what you're about, that sort of thing. Ladies first. Marie, why don't we start with you?
For sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Marie Montmarquet. I'm in California and San Francisco right now. My brother and I have been out here for about 10 years building compliant cannabis companies, started in delivery and then moved into cultivation and delivery, distribution, processing, a little bit of everything that vertically integrates our farm and our delivery and our distro. So just been on the ground, learning a lot, really involved in operations on a lot of different levels, and then been getting really involved in advocacy the last 2 years. I work with Success Centers, which is the #1 institution helping equity in San Francisco. And I do a lot of just pro bono help and advisory with their nonprofit.
Cool. Very good. Okay, St. Mychael, you're up.
Oh, absolutely. So my name is St. Mychael. I am owner of Supreme Green Cuisine and a former communications director of New York City NORML, the New York City chapter. What we do with Supreme Green Cuisine is we cater to educating people about cannabis and microdosing cannabis, understanding the molecules within cannabis from THC to CBN. And of course, we do CBD because that's the new crave and the new rave of it all, which is really great because having that piece of cannabis comfortable to discuss and comfortable to be around has really give us an opportunity, a platform to educate people. And then, of course, NORML, we have been lobbying since the beginning for cannabis to make sure that it has a true voice and a great narrative. So, in a nutshell, I'm really big on the community and big on people knowing what they're consuming.
I'm all about knowing what I'm consuming on a regular basis, let's just say. David, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Rico Lamitte just joined us. Rico, come back on camera, and we're just running through with an introduction of the speakers. If you want to take a moment and introduce yourself.
There he is.
Hey.
How you
Rico.
guys doing? There's a terrible accident. Like I'm close to my office in Orange County right now. There's like a terrible accident. I've just been sitting in the lovely, beautiful weather we have out here.
Why is everybody rubbing that in?
That's a rub.
Hey, Rico, I just showed him the pool, man.
Rico, tell us a little bit about Canivision, what's going on, and by the way, St. Mychael knows Vladimir from Happy Monkey, who was on your show. I think it was last week.
Yeah, he was actually on our first broadcast that we did. Yeah, they are partners with ours out on the East Coast, and Canivision, we're a decentralized media broadcast organization based out here in LA, but we are all over the place, like literally. We have broadcast hubs in the Northeast, Midwest, Southeast, Canada, Mexico as well. And what we do is we are counter news. You can kind of think of us like I don't like comparing us to everybody else, but we're sort of like a Vice News of the cannabis industry. And when stuff happens in the industry, these big news stories, like wherever, we reach out to the people who are affected, positively, negatively, it doesn't matter, on the opposite side of that. And we counter those stories, giving people a more well-rounded version of what's going on in the world's most opaque industry. And we're having a lot of fun doing it, man. We're unearthing we're helping a lot of small businesses, number one. We're unearthing a lot of truths that help everybody. Doesn't matter how big your company is, how small your company is. When you only get one side of the story, which is the deep-pocketed people right now, who are getting the articles and Benzinga, Green Market Report, and like all of that stuff, then everybody suffers from that. Whether you are an investor, whether you are a consumer, whether you are a operator, doesn't matter, because you're only getting one side of the story. So I've been in the industry on both sides, both the legal and illegal side of the industry. And once out of necessity, now out of choice, helped 2 companies go public. And I see a lot of pain and I see a lot of triumph right now. And the problem is people are not connecting and sharing information. So that's what we do. We get people access to stories that other people just don't, for some reason, they're not told, they're not coaxed into believing that these stories have value. And we go directly to the community and we show them that they do have value. So everybody eats, everybody has better information. And at the end of the day, everybody flourishes from that information too. So we had a 3-month rollout, 3 live broadcasts that we did. And we are officially out of beta on January 20th. And we have a Winnebago out in your neck of the woods, Jimmy, leaving Connecticut, making its way down to the inauguration. Unfortunately, we had a small event last week that where our Winnebago, the Cannabis, will not be able to be at the inauguration. So we're getting to a couple of high-profile interviews with politicians that are in the cannabis industry or cannabis industry adjacent, and just getting their take on what's going on, from the MORE Act to the Senate bill that came right after that. And we're getting a lot of really, really good feedback from everybody involved, and informing people where other people are just like drawing straws.
Right. Well, we'll be informing people with our Weed Talk news that follows this live stream, just so you know, because we do wave the right flag, as it were, Rico. Okay. David, you want to dictate where we go with the conversation next? Go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. Rico, you're hanging with us, or you got to run into your office?
No, I'm just gonna set up right on top of my car right here out in the.
Okay,
cool. I'm hanging with you guys. I told Isabel that I'm going to be on regardless. But yeah, there's a pretty bad pile up right outside our exit, so I'm just gonna be out here. I'm gonna put my computer up. I'm on. I'm good to go.
That's what happens when you put stoners behind the wheel. They start smashing.
It's not the stoners. It's not the stoners.
That's right. That's right.
Let me get in the slow lane and put cruise control on.
Sure. Let me throw this out to the three of you. What does social equity mean to you? Like, what do you see as its goal, and what do you see as the most important aspect of social equity programs?
Ooh, who wants to tackle that first?
Go for it.
Marie, I bet you can handle that, Marie.
I think it's really, 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 really important. I mean, just the educational aspect of everyone understanding what social equity is. That's something that people have no clue. I was with a real estate agent the other day where I was just touring a property, and then we were briefly speaking on equity, and he's like, equity, I don't understand the whole equity thing. Why are we even doing that? And I'm like, remember the criminalization of cannabis that people have so suddenly forgotten about, and all those people that were criminalized by this plant, and the same people now are having no opportunity into taking one of the key things that, you know, Black and brown people have been clearly put in jail for years and years and years, and not giving us a pathway to actually recreate our own business in a legal way. So I started just thinking, like, in San Francisco, for instance, you know, it's not necessarily, oh, he's like, well, if you went to jail for weed, why would they give you a business? That's kind of an oxymoron, right? And I'm like, how would that be an oxymoron if you're allowing the people that have been in jail participating in this plant, taking the risk all this time? So the moment that it's actually decriminalized, we're just going to give it to the rich and allow the rich get richer, and not even allow the people that look like me and, you know, the rest of us to have an opportunity to exist in this capacity. So I think that number one, it's just like educating the masses on what equity is and why it exists and why we wouldn't just give this drug or this plant rather to straight corporate America, where we only thing that we know that America cares about is capitalism, and capitalism is money over people every single day. So at the end of like, for me, it's just the moment of like, what is social equity? Making sure that the people like me that have put our lives at risk to sell this drug when it was illegal have the opportunity to come into the legal environment and are empowered and supported to do so.
Cool.
Well said. Absolutely.
St. Mychael, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I agree with everything that she's saying. I feel like, social equity for our communities, that, the lower income, the impoverished, the Black and brown are the ones that really have more of a relationship with cannabis, not only because of its disenfranchisement. So when we get caught with cannabis, we're not just taken to jail, we're abused. We're criminalized to such a depth that it's not a slap on the wrist to which it should be. So it kind of messes up our homes, and like having the opportunity to have not just equity behind it, but education, understanding behind it, not just for our own community, but starting core and giving it to the ones that don't know. Like, what Marie was saying is this man couldn't understand why equity was important. And just like Marie said, there's been so many of us that have been just ridiculed, abused, and ran through the mud. Like cannabis itself has had a campaign against it with Reefer Madness. So it's never really had a good voice behind it. And I believe, can give it its best voice because we're the most proficient in it. Somebody that's gone to prison for marijuana knows exactly what they're doing. They've had a practical application with it, more than someone who just knows the numbers. The smartest thing about community equity is taking those two staples and putting them together and completing something that can be successful. So you take a businessman, you educate a businessman, but they need to understand our structure, our history, so they have an appreciation, just like they appreciate money. Anybody who is skilled in business and in Wall Street and money has a certain passion behind it. They have a passion behind maybe a commodity that they're always following, and cannabis doesn't have a voice to educate them. So I believe, to not be so long-winded, that social equity would also bring a highlight of understanding, because we're able to explain, well, look, this is why we need this. And there's no coincidence why these impoverished people can't get these licenses, not only just to buy it, but they don't have the capital for it. So and the reason why they don't have the capital for it is because they've been impeded on their entire experience with cannabis. So I agree 1,000%, and I just wanted to chime that in.